This is Express Leads. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Express Leads. I'm your host, Paul Brady, and today we have David Virden with Virden Benefits. And David is a health and supplemental insurance broker in the state of Massachusetts. Welcome, David.
Hello, Paul. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. So why don't we start off a little bit? It's funny, but I don't think a lot of people understand that there's this whole world out there where they can get a health broker to kind of work with them and help them with stuff. So why don't we start a little bit where you tell us a little bit more about your business and how some of that works?
Absolutely. You said it perfectly. I am a health insurance and supplemental insurance broker based out of Massachusetts, but licensed really all over New England and beyond. And I like to help people, when they are faced with some of the toughest situations, that they're ever going to face when illness or injury strikes. So I think most folks are familiar with health insurance. These days, a lot of people go online to get it. But to have a broker off whom you can bounce your questions and get multiple quotes, in my clients, I know that they appreciate that personal service. So essentially, I really like to describe my business as having two primary lanes. And lane number one is health insurance. I mentioned I am based out of Massachusetts. I work out of a Danvers, Massachusetts office on the North Shore of Boston. And for Massachusetts companies and individuals, I can help them find a health insurance plan that is going to fit their needs. And for a business owner who's trying to stay competitive and attract employees, benefits can really make the difference. I also do health insurance for folks, for businesses in Maine. So the first lane of my business is health insurance in Massachusetts and Maine. The second lane is I work with multiple different carriers and providers in the supplemental benefits land. And while most people understand health insurance and the deductibles and copays and coinsurance that come with health insurance these days, and these days those deductibles tend to be higher, fewer people understand supplemental benefits, I find. And those products include an accident protection plan or a cancer protection plan, critical illness protection, short-term disability, dental, vision, and others that a business can choose to offer to help be a supplement to a high deductible health plan, for example.
Right.
And really pay the insured cash directly to help offset any out-of-pocket costs, including those deductibles, copays, and coinsurances.
So it's kind of like that Aflac ad, right?
Sure.
Where
Yeah, that's
you got
probably,
Mickey.
I would say, and in fact, I mentioned I work with multiple providers, and Aflac is one of them.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, and the duck is very recognizable. But I have to give Aflac some credit. In the last couple of years, they finally steered their TV advertising in a direction that it really explained a little better what the products do. And you'll see someone on crutches and the duck delivering some cash to them. That person has twisted his or her ankle or torn ACL, and there's a lot of out-of-pocket money that comes from having an MRI and surgery and physical therapy. And in a TV representation, the duck is delivering that cash to you to help offset all that out-of-pocket money. I mentioned I work with multiple different providers, which really allows me to dial in exactly what works best for the client. My approach is consultative. I do free consultations and really learn if there is even a fit. Because
Right.
I had a meeting recently where we came to the conclusion, within 20 minutes that this isn't the right solution for you, and I made a recommendation to them,
Right.
that it was a better fit. So that's
So
you're right. The duck is probably the best known one out there.
So do you find that, it's interesting. So listening to what you're saying, do you find that given the state of healthcare today, healthcare is very expensive for a lot of people. And
Yes.
you hit one of the issues, you touched on one of the issues. You said, there can be high deductibles and other things. So do you find that you have more people, given the current climate, coming to you for supplemental to cover some of those types of charges? Or do you find you have more people coming to you for just straight up healthcare coverage?
Well, there's a couple different ways to answer that question. I think given the there's some folks out there who say the whole healthcare landscape is broken and it's just the costs are sky high. There's been a growing trend over the last number of years where the supplemental products were becoming more desirable. COVID put a lot of that in sharper focus. I can't. I could if I actually sat down and did the math, but I did more disability and hospital indemnity claims over the last 18 months than I typically do in any given time period, specific to COVID, because those two products, disability keeps a paycheck going when you have to miss work due to sickness or injury. Hospital
Right.
hospital indemnity pays you cash towards your hospital confinement because a hospital stay is expensive and there's some out of pocket money there, and that a supplemental plan puts a lot of that back in your pocket. So there's the other in terms of my two lanes are divided. I mean, I think I have equal parts interest in health insurance and the supplemental. Oftentimes I'll help a business owner put in the health insurance with a little bit higher deductible, and then he or she will make the supplemental products as a voluntary offering to the employees. And what I like to say about the voluntary a la carte options is that the different products appeal to different people differently. And
Right.
this is how I always say it. Because the supplemental products, accident protection, cancer protection, and some others can also cover spouse and any children up to age 26. That accident plan is going to appeal to the mom or dad who's got three kids playing ice hockey and they've been to the ER too many times to count over the last year. And the a cancer protection plan is going to appeal to someone with a family history of cancer. And the what I refer to excuse me what I refer to the supplemental products as is practical, affordable peace of mind. Because in the case of a cancer diagnosis, for example, and my family has been touched by it, most people I talk to in one way or another, family or friends, has been touched by cancer. And cancer can really bankrupt individuals and families because health insurance doesn't come close to covering everything by a long shot. And a cancer protection policy pays cash towards initial diagnosis, cash towards treatments that you get, and really can when a cancer diagnosis delivers an emotional toll on a individual and family, what soon will follow is a financial toll, and these products can help at least alleviate the financial problem. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So I was going to say, so if you have and I'll give you a situation, okay, a case.
Mm-hmm.
We'll call it like a little on the fly case study here. So I know someone recently. This is probably about 2 years ago. Their daughter was involved. It's an accident. It
Mm-hmm.
actually involved a. It's probably not even really important to discuss the accident, but they were in
Mm-hmm.
an accident. She was injured. They had to call an ambulance.
Yes.
The police, the paramedics were on scene, and they said, "No, we need an ambulance." So they called an ambulance. Ambulance took her to a local hospital. They gave her stitches on her arm and all sorts of stuff. It was not pleasant, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She had a $4,000 or $5,000 deductible. The
Right.
mother did
Right.
on her health care for her child. So that ambulance, and John Oliver just had a whole thing on HBO about ambulances and all this, but
Oh
that
yeah.
ambulance charged them $4,000, and it
Yeah.
wasn't. And so she had a $5,000 deductible. So she had to come up with, you know,
Right.
4,000 for the ambulance, and then the other 1,000 for all the other services. So she
Right.
had to pay $5,000 out of pocket. So with someone like that, would they be covered under a supplemental plan, or is it something that's like, oh, we'll give you 20%, or because that was
Yeah.
devastating for
Oh
them.
yeah. And so in that particular case, the accident protection policy it would be the one that would be in a kick in for them. And is it going to match every dollar that she's out of pocket? No, but it's going to put a big chunk of that. I have a example that I use. A colleague of mine tore a rotator cuff a number of years ago, and had the treatment that followed, including MRIs and surgeries and stuff. And he, in his case, had the $2,000 deductible, and he was out of pocket up to that with a little bit on top. Easily. but in the accident protection policy puts about 1,800 of that back in his pocket. So rather than being down 2,000, really out of pocket 200. The That's what these policies are designed to do, to help offset. It's not dollar for dollar, but a
Right.
large portion of what someone is
But he
out of
paid, so
pocket.
he paid 200, right? And it was
Mm-hmm.
a two, if he hadn't had the supplemental, he would have had to pay 10 times that amount.
Well, yeah, there you go. Exactly, and that's what the design of it is all about. And when I say affordable, practical peace of mind, an individual accident protection policy is one Dunkin' and muffin stop, coffee and muffin stop a week at your local Dunkin'.
Right.
And you can do spouse and child protection, and kids can be covered up to 26 for two coffee and muffin stops a week. So we're
Well, I'm
talking
glad you
about
said Dunkin's, because if it had been Starbucks, that would have been expensive.
well, that's why I use Dunkin' as the example. But we're talking about really
I love
affordable.
Starbucks, by the way. I don't want to get sued by anyone. I love
No, no,
Starbucks
no.
and Dunkin' Donuts. They're
I
both equally
understand. Yep.
awesome. So,
You know, I'm in the Boston area, so I went Dunkin'. But
oh, of course, I grew up in Massachusetts, so I hear you. I get
but
like, you can't throw a rock around Worcester without hitting a Dunkin' Donuts. So,
really almost anywhere. I mean, they're oftentimes across the street from one another. But that's the design of it. And in the case of a cancer protection policy, there's specific these are indemnity policies that are specific dollar amounts for specific treatments, but really go a long way. And something like a cancer protection policy has lodging and meals money built into it too, because we know someone might be staying at that hospital or having to travel to a specialist. And so there's those things really built into it to be a huge help to folks when they really need it.
right.
If I may, Paul, I'll tell a very quick story about one of my cancer
Yeah,
protection.
absolutely.
I have a client who is ongoing with treatments for lung cancer right now, and
Oh, I'm
he it
sorry.
was it was November of last year that had the diagnosis. And I make it my commitment to everybody with whom I work is that I'm always one phone call away to be the help that they need to help with that claim and whatever they need. And so I'm very happily helping him, put in his paperwork, getting him paid. And he called or texted me a few months ago and said, and what he had been doing was scanning me some and emailing me some paperwork, and his scanner went down. And I said, hey, no problem. I'm out and about doing my appointments all over the place. I'll swing by and I'll grab it from you. And this gentleman is a blue collar, hardened, one of the nicest guys I know. But he's a just a very strong man, strong individual. And I met him in his driveway, and with near tears in his eyes, handed me this paperwork and said, thank you for helping keep the food on my table and the roof over my head. And that is what the money pay. These are policies, the supplemental kind. The policy, the insured owns that policy. Cash paid for these benefits goes directly to them to help with those things: food on the
Yeah.
table, roof over the head, and
Yeah, you're talking about commercials. That should be the Aflac commercial
yeah,
right
I
there.
know, I know. It's true. I'll put it in for consideration. But it's real life help for real life situations.
Sure.
Um, and it's that the cancer product is arguably one of the most fulfilling that I'm able to help people with. But every single one of them, I mean, I've got critical illness protection policies for heart attacks and strokes too. And when something like that happens to someone, it's if it doesn't kill them, it's gonna put them out of work for a little while,
Yeah.
and affect their ability to earn. And there are lump sum payments that they can enroll in, and these monies are really really helpful when people need them. That's
Yeah.
what it's for.
Yeah. I mean, it's so you talked about to circle back for a few seconds here. You talked about bankruptcy. That's very common
Mm,
with healthcare. A lot of people go bankrupt because they end up in the hospital. They don't have the right policy, or the policy doesn't cover everything they have. They end up getting bills from millions of dollars. I mean, they used to have a thing which I guess is illegal now in Massachusetts, but I don't think it's illegal in every state now. But there used to be surprise medical billing. So you're in an
mm,
accident on the Mass Pike, on Route 90 in Massachusetts, for those that don't know that. But you're on the Mass Pike, and they send a helicopter to get you. Well, it used to be that you could get a $30,000 bill for that
right, right,
helicopter.
right, right, right.
So if you're talking someone that's got, for whatever reason, they don't have the right coverage, or their health care barely, it's like catastrophic, which
Hmm.
covers as little as it can, but it's designed, or at least it's marketed as being something that, well, you won't lose your shirt. But the truth is that, without a supplemental policy like you're talking about, you could have millions of dollars in billing for someone that has a major heart attack and they're in an ICU for 2 months.
Yeah.
So if that happens, let's do another hypothetical. Let's say you get someone in there and they're getting close to $1 million in billing. What does supplemental do to help them?
Well, I mean, it depends on, if in the case of that heart attack, the applicant has a choice, can apply for, a lump sum payment of 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, for example. And that lump sum could be a huge help to that person. I'll tell you another very real story. High school buddy of mine, about 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks ago, I learned that he was in a really locally to the area I'm in. And I had had lunch with him about 2 months previous. He was in a very serious car accident, and he got medevaced to Boston. Uh, the injuries were serious to the point that he did lose the bottom from the knee down on one of his legs. Um, Medevac to Boston, and whatever. I haven't seen the paperwork, to summarize all the treatments, but he was in Boston for days. He went to rehab thereafter. He's going to have, prosthetic and physical therapy that's going to follow for a while. And uh, friends of the family, friends, people that I don't know personally, but friends of the family set up a GoFundMe page for them,
Yeah,
because the bills were going to be so massive. And not everybody has that friend who's going to do that for them. Not everybody has is going to feel all that great about taking that money. uh the To have a supplemental plan or plans in place to help deal with these situations when they come is, simply put, a way to avoid GoFundMe, but just really just set someone up for, the protection that they could need. Now,
right,
like any insurance, you don't need it until you need it. And so a lot of folks like to roll the dice, especially young 20-something-year-olds. When I meet them, when I work with a business who's got some younger folks employed, um, uh, you know, I'm nearly 50, so I remember when I thought I was bulletproof. Those days don't remain, and those days aren't anymore.
you mean you're not Superman anymore?
When I was 25, nothing could have taken me down. Um, but that's so I bring that up just to illustrate. A lot of folks don't feel good about paying for insurance. What if I don't need to use it? Okay, yeah, right. But what if you do? And that's the I've personally torn my Achilles and gotten concussions and had two back surgeries, and I mean, I'm just throughout my life.
Man, you're a wreck.
Yeah, it's just stuff happens to most people.
Sure,
and
sure.
and um and the I have a very serious why. I mean, business owners will often tell you there's a why to why they love what they do, why they do what they do. And if you don't mind, Paul, I'll just tell you briefly mine.
Sure.
So about well, in 2000, October 2006, my father was diagnosed with ALS, or otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease.
Right. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's tough.
It's a brutal time for
Yeah,
someone,
totally.
because what it does is just systematically shuts your body down. Your mind remains sharp. So
Yeah,
you
we had a relative that
okay.
had ALS too, and it was sad.
Yeah. So ALS typically takes people in about 2 to 5 years. My father was from diagnosis to his passing was 22 months, and he had in place disability that was, very important to for he and my mother while he was still living, and life insurance, and which was, paid out upon his passing, and super helpful to my mother.
Right,
And so you've got some familiarity with ALS, Paul. The 10% of ALS is genetic, and in the 90% is a lightning strike. It's just they think environmental. They think they're not even sure why it's affecting more and more people, but just sort of randomly rather than the genetic kind.
yeah.
It was just he had protections in place that were super helpful for my mother, and so I saw firsthand the value of these things. I told you about my friend with the car accident and the leg injury. More recently, I talked to a buddy of mine whose wife just got diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and the stuff happens, and it's if you are so inclined, it's a smart move to protect yourself.
So the disability part of it, I know it probably applies to a lot of different things, but you're
Mhm.
talking about when you're talking about supplemental or disability, you're talking about income replacement, right?
That's exactly right. Disability is
Up to what, like
is paycheck.
70%, 80%?
It's on average up to about 60%, but and it can actually creep towards about 70. You're right. The it's down and dirty paycheck insurance. That's what I call it. Is if we in Massachusetts, we are required to insure our cars, but we insure our cars, we insure our homes, our apartments, our toys, boats, and jet skis. Why not insure the paycheck that makes all that stuff possible? And so many businesses, usually of a larger size, will do employer funded disability for their employees. But
Right,
there are many small to medium sized companies that just can't afford to do that. And the one important thing I like to point out about the supplemental, the voluntary benefits, is that while health insurance is always going to cost a business owner something to offer it, supplemental does not have to cost a business owner a dime if that's how they choose to do it, because the vast majority of my business clients set these things up as voluntary options. The employees who raise their hands and find a usefulness to these products pay for them via payroll deduction. And so if we're talking disability specifically for that small to medium sized business for whom that disability to provide it to the employees and pay for it, they just can't do to make to that business owner can choose to work with me to bring in these products as these a la carte voluntary options for the I mentioned the parent with 3 kids playing ice hockey is going to like that accident policy. The person with the family history of cancer is going to like that cancer protection policy.
right.
Anyone with a paycheck could find some value in disability when the statistics out there are real that a high percentage of Americans don't have the savings to weather a 3 month 3 month storm of not working. And the most common short term disability I do is 3 or 6 months. Someone can choose 12 month or even higher in some cases. But
Right.
because there's a misconception about disability. A lot of people have it in their head. Oh, disability, that means I'd be out and never work again. Well, the vast majority of injury or illnesses only take someone out of commission for 3 to 6 months. And so that's what that short term disability, and the other nice feature of disability is there's maternity leave built into it. For any family planners out there, and it's a paycheck replacement, a paycheck insurance product that keeps your paycheck going when you can't work. Dude.
So if you have the federally authorized family medical leave,
Mhm.
do these programs cover income replacement during that time too?
Yeah, so there's a couple different considerations with that depending on which product I'm working with. I mentioned I work with multiples, and
Right,
there's some math that needs to be done with most of them so that you're not exceeding that 72%. But there's some products here in Massachusetts that do not. There's a term in insurance called does it coordinate or does it not coordinate? And to say it does not coordinate means you can get paid by both within tax limitations, taxable limitations. So they can be a supplement to here in Massachusetts the paid family medical leave or the federal program, or sometimes they can work right alongside them.
right. So let me ask you. I want to switch gears and ask you some questions geared more towards promoting your business.
Hmm.
But before I jump on that, I want to ask you a couple of specific things, and I'll just ask you in tandem, right? So
Sure.
the first question is a two-part question. The first question is that do you provide supplemental coverage for dental or any dental coverage? Number one. Number two, do you provide supplemental for people that are retired on Medicare?
Two very good questions. Yes, dental is very much a part of my product offering, and I've got several different variations of it to help employers fit what they need. I do
By
not.
supplemental, you mean?
Yes, well, so let's not get too caught up in the supplemental label. So I've got indemnity type dental that can be good for a really good for those major services, and I've got the dental that most people with which most people are familiar, the stuff that's paying for those cleanings, the stuff that
Right,
can
right, right.
can have orthodontic riders or
Right.
cosmetic riders on it.
I'm thinking more along the lines of you've got dental coverage, which everyone runs into this. It's very common
Hmm.
in dental work, right? You get dental, and then you say, "Oh well, you use your benefits up for the year," which happens after you sneeze, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
you've used your benefits up, um, but you have to get a like a root canal, or you have to get an implant,
Hmm. Right.
because the tooth is snapped, or a root, or a implant, or a I'm sorry,
Yeah.
something else you had in
Aligning a
there broke.
crown or whatever it might be.
Right, right, right. You had a
Hmm.
crown that broke and you need an implant. Does it cover any of that kind of expense?
Right. And yes, there I do have that solution. In fact, because we've mentioned the company already, Aflac has a dental that is most useful for those major services. It's the indemnity dental that we have that Aflac has is built exactly to help offset those costs because, as you said, you reach your maximum with dental, and that the filling is going to be extra money. So that the indemnity product I can do through Aflac is very helpful for those things.
Okay. And
Yep.
what about Medicare?
So Medicare is a lane I don't travel in. It's but I have very trusted two or three Medicare experts that when I come across those needs that I hand the baton to those people. So I don't personally work in Medicare.
Okay, but there are, I guess, and I know there are supplemental Medicare programs.
Oh
I just
yes,
didn't know if
yep.
they were.
And I'm not an expert in them, but I always say you got to talk to this person because he or she can really take you through all those things.
Okay, so let me like I said, let me switch gears here for a little. We have about 15 or so minutes left,
Hmm.
so let me switch gears into put my marketing hat on for a minute and ask you a couple of questions about clients, prospective clients, business growth, all that kind of stuff, right? So,
Sure.
what do you for your business? Where do you find clients? How do you find them?
Through, I mean, a few different channels. Some of the traditional ones of cold calling and door knocking, but the primary where I put most of my effort, and this is just my approach, is networking. I do, I should know the exact number, but somewhere in the neighborhood of eight different formal networking groups, and any chamber event to which I can go, or when I can. And obviously, COVID put a little bit of a damper on all those activities, but
Oh, of course, yeah.
but no, I'm a serial networker. I like I you know in a non-COVID affected world, getting out and meeting people and shaking hands and learning how, networking when done right is an exercise of get, there's one of the bigger networking organizations out there, call it givers gain. It's, you give in order to eventually get in, you will gain. And so that's how I have built, my business primarily, is through just cooperative networking with other people. It can be, I really work well with the property and casualty insurance brokers, the car and home insurance folks, because I learn of people with those needs all the time, and I can send them business, and they can send me business. It's just one example, but cooperative networking is a huge part of what I do. And then
Okay.
I do a lot. I do a depending on your perspective, I do a lot of social media, LinkedIn um, activity, primarily LinkedIn. In terms of, I do a lot of educational videos and other content to
And they all those go on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. They actually they go when I put something on, it goes in three places, just because the system I use puts it in three places. It's LinkedIn, my Instagram business page, and a Facebook business page. They get put up at those places. So, that can have varying degree of success, but what it does over time for me has set me up as an expert in my field. And, when people hear of a need that I can help support, then oftentimes they're reaching out to me to help.
Okay. And I noticed earlier um, that you said that you service Massachusetts and Maine. So you have some geographic limitations. You're limited to those two states.
Yeah, just to be clear, my remember, my two lanes are health insurance and supplemental insurance. And so for the health insurance, the health insurance with which everyone is familiar, I do that in Massachusetts and Maine.
Hmm.
For supplemental, I do it from Maine to Virginia. So
So all along the East Coast.
yeah, with a couple not in there, but it's generally that description. So I have, it's I'm not doing a lot of door knocking in Virginia, but I've had some opportunities to meet some folks, businesses with employees there, and had a good opportunity to work with them. So
Sure.
that's my geography. Generally, East Coast.
What do you think is when you think about potential clients? What do you think is a good client for you?
I usually say that via three pain points one might hear. Um, Number one, a business owner might say, "Man, I really know I'd love to offer some benefits to my folks, but it's just going to be too darn expensive." Well, the supplemental route doesn't have to cost you anything, and that could be a type of business that someone who I can help. Second one is, I do offer health insurance, business owner says, but it's a really super high deductible plan. And I had one of my guys go out last year with a torn ACL, and he was really hurting financially because of all that out of pocket money. Well,
Right.
that's something I can help with too. And then third one is business owner would say, I know to be competitive, to retain and recruit my employees, benefits is a way to do it, but it's too expensive, or I don't know how to do it. That's someone I can help too. From a specific sort of business description size, really, I work with the various providers I am partnered with. I can work from the solopreneur, that single person business, and upward. And typically smaller to medium sized businesses have the gaps in, either no insurance or high deductible plans where my solutions can fit. I also have some larger companies, 100 to 200 employee companies, where the supplemental is helpful. One of my larger 100-person construction companies that I work with, they've got, a $3,000, $6,000 Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance. They are a construction company, so the accident policy makes a ton of sense for those guys, because they're getting hurt on and off the job, and that's what that plan is built to protect.
Right. Right.
A company of a size of 100 or more is statistically the cancer protection policy is going to resonate with some folks there, and it does. Um, the the supplemental products are all portable, and in the case of this one construction company with whom I work, the portability of the life insurance really works well over there because the business does a 2x salary life insurance employer paid for employees, but they can't take it with them when they leave because it's not portable. But any of the supplemental products I have over there are portable, so good handful of employees pick up a little bit of life insurance because it's something that they can take wherever they go.
Right. Right. So, okay. And, so it's a little bit, I'm going to ask you a few questions and I'm going to go through and kind of do a quick on the fly audit and talk about a few things I think that might help you from a marketing perspective in your business.
Great.
So one of the things though I'd like to ask you is what do you think some of the most common questions are that you hear from clients? And they can revolve around pain points, they can revolve around
Mhm.
costs, any whatever you hear the most. What do you think is something you hear more than anything else from clients?
One thing I hear from a lot of people, and this is product specific, but I hear it almost weekly, is I've never heard of a cancer protection policy. What is that? Um, but otherwise, things I hear from clients, the business owner with whom I work, or the employees at that business, are they're worried about how are they going to weather that deductible. They're worried about how what is coinsurance, because coinsurance is one of the greatest examples of the healthcare system being broken, because it's just
Yeah.
you're gonna do a deductible and then coinsurance when they get hospitalized. Just I get a lot of those questions about what does this mean in terms. There's a lot of terminology in insurance, and just my consultative approach, free consultation is, and my willingness and want to be that one phone call away for anybody with whom I'm working. I get questions of all types. One of my favorite, just it makes me giggle every time, is um on a let's just say it's Labor Day weekend on that Tuesday, or Memorial Day weekend, on the Tuesday back to work, pretty much like clockwork. I'll get a few phone calls from policyholders who've gotten hurt doing something over the long weekend, and and
Yeah.
yeah, fireworks related or otherwise. And the question I love is, "Hey Dave, I did this XYZ to me over the weekend. Remind me, what coverage do I have?" And it's funny. People kind of forget what they enroll in, and so I'm always that resource to be able to steer them in the right direction.
Okay. Okay. Um, so uh, let's talk a little bit about um, paid advertising.
Hmm.
I don't know. I know you do. You mentioned you do a lot of networking,
Hmm.
and that you're a serial networker. But do you do any type of paid advertising online or elsewhere?
I've dabbled in it, but with the online, the boosting of posts and things, I've backed off of it, you know, over the last 6 months to a year, just because I don't think I was doing it in a way that was getting enough ROI. So I haven't. I've done sponsorship of that, or like I'm a at a golf event on Monday. I'm a whole sponsor, and um, but I've not, just because of I don't think the ROI was there for me. I've not done a ton of paid advertising.
Right. Okay. So let me touch back on your web presence and your social media channels for a second. Do you
Hmm.
do you have a website?
I do. It's verdenbenefits.com. Yes, I do.
Excellent. And for as far as social media goes, I know that you have something where you post it on LinkedIn and post on LinkedIn, Instagram, and your Facebook page. But do you have Um, do you have a YouTube channel? Do you have a YouTube account at all?
I do. I
Um,
do the so I mentioned I do a lot of video, and as I should say, all of them do eventually get up on the YouTube channel as well.
okay, good. That's good. And I know you mentioned a Facebook page, but what about other people's Facebook groups? Are you out there kind of participating in any of those, kind of beating the bushes looking for leads?
I am, to an extent. I am. The I don't think I do it to the. I don't know. This is a personal opinion, and don't send any lawyers after me, Facebook. But I kind of wish Facebook would go away. So I don't play on it.
Right.
I don't play on it all that much these days. But I am, to answer your question. I am a part of a whole bunch of different insurance focused groups and some other things too, where that when I do go in there, I'll mine them and participate in them.
Right, right. So let me walk through. Oh, one last important question, actually.
Hmm.
Um, do you have an email list? And if so, how big is your email list?
So I do a newsletter. I'd have I'm it's the list is smaller than I would like, and I need to go. I'd have to go look and see what it is, but it's under 1,000. I'm building it, so it's building slowly. The newsletter is only 4 or 5 months old at this point. So I have a list, but it's not all that impressive
Okay.
yet.
Um, yeah. So let me walk through a few things that I've noticed as I've been kind of asking you these questions.
Hmm.
So the first thing I'll say is getting and I understand your criticism of Facebook. I mean, Facebook isn't everyone's favorite social media platform. Some given depending on who the person is, right?
Right,
But I
right,
always say the same thing to everyone. That oh, I want to get off Facebook, or some people say that. Not everyone, but some people say, oh, I don't want to do that. It's like, well, if you have a business, you definitely don't want to get off of
right,
Facebook.
and that's why I'm still
Um,
there. Yeah.
right, right, and that's the thing is that they tie everything into your personal Facebook account. So in order to have a Facebook page, private Facebook groups, to
Right.
join other groups, you have to have a Facebook account.
Hmm.
So regardless of what you do with your personal Facebook account or not, it's okay to ignore that stuff. Um, the personal stuff if you want, but you really need to concentrate on the business stuff because Facebook is a good way, as are Google Ads, are a good way to find targeted leads for your
Hmm.
business. And so, and LinkedIn is certainly good. All these other ones you're doing are good. You know, and but Facebook and Google are big ones as far as building your mailing list. So I'll give you an example. I asked you a couple of questions about what were the most common questions that your clients might ask you.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times I'll work with clients that they get the same questions over and over and over, like financial advisors, people like that get the same 10 questions over and over. And I said, well, that's a perfect opportunity to create what I call, what marketers call a lead magnet. But basically, you're writing a little PDF, a little Word document you save as PDF. You call it an ebook,
Hmm.
and you give it away through advertise it on Facebook and Google. You give it away as, hey, and you have to have some copywriting involved here so that it sounds, like something that would be interesting to someone. Not, hey, grab my ebook. No one's going to click that, right? But if
Right.
you had something like, hey, the top 7 questions answered about, um, insurance, how to how to cover yourself when you're out of work, or something better than that. I'd have to
Sure.
come up
Yeah.
and actually, but the idea is that you're hitting something that's really interesting to people. So when people click that link, they say, sure, I'll grab a free ebook. They go to a little landing page. Doesn't even have to be on your website. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't be on your website. It should be separate.
Hmm.
Websites have too many distractions for people. I have clients sometimes will point people to a website and say, "Oh, I've got a landing page on my website," and I always say you shouldn't do that because once people get on your website, they can see the side column, they can see the nav bar, they might click on something else. With a landing page, there's nothing but the offer. And so the offer is, hey, grab your free, you hit the ad from Facebook or Google Ads. They click to learn more or download it today or whatever you use. They come to your page and it says, yeah, just give us your email and we'll send you the free ebook.
Hmm.
We'll send you
Yeah.
the link. And so what happens? Now you're building, not just building an email list. This isn't just people that may or may not be interested that you press the flesh with at a networking group, right?
Right.
These are people that are specifically interested in questions about policies that you have. So when they give you their email, you've added very targeted people to your email list. And that's how it starts,
Hmm.
right? You get people on your mailing list, then you can, and by the way, I know that people like to do newsletters, but a lot of times people will say, oh, I build my mailing list off my newsletter. I hear that a lot.
Right.
And that's fine. But the problem is that a lot of people don't like newsletters. And even the people that are sending the newsletters out don't like to write them. They take too much time,
Yeah.
or they get a third party company to do it. And like my financial advisor, I love my financial advisor.
Hmm.
He's awesome. But he sends out this newsletter that I kind of scan, but I don't really read because it's sent out by a third party. It's obvious that it's sent out by a third party with a bunch of stuff
Yeah.
from, the past week that compiled together and thrown my way. And it's like, well, I am not really interested in that. But, sending out targeted emails that, to those clients talking about, maybe picking out a different niche item every day. It's not a newsletter. It's just an email that goes out that talks about, like a case study
Sure.
or hey, I just did my latest YouTube video. Check it out. It's on supplemental insurance and how this mother of four was able to keep her house when her husband was out of work for 12 months.
Right. Yeah. I
You
like that.
know, things that people want to hear.
Hmm.
So the emails have to be engaging, they have to be something, but the point is that you have passive and active calls to action. So passive being you're sending out something with a YouTube video that clearly gives them value. That's it. You're not asking for anything, but there might be something in the footer of your email saying, if you want more information on uh, this type of policy, whatever it is your video is about,
Hmm.
then click here. And then you go to another thing where they enter their information and they go to a different mailing list because even though they're on your mailing list, if you can segment your lists, that's
Right.
great.
Right.
And people who, click on links more often in emails are more motivated than others, right?
Hmm.
So, so you have stuff like that. That's a great way to bring people in and to target the right people because um, far too often people send out a newsletter and it'll get sent around to a lot of people. And you don't know, you offer a lot of products, right?
Hmm.
I work with a nonprofit where, they have, 5 core pieces of their nonprofit: livable wage, healthcare, debt relief, tax relief, and income inequality. I forget the last one. But basically, you send something out and you're trying to cover all those things in one email. You're just going to get people who maybe are interested in livable wage saying, I don't want to see stuff about debt relief. And so they opt out. But what you do is you target emails to each of those audiences. And you can do that through a number of different ways. You can do it through surveys online. You can do it through, targeted advertising for each of those 5 core components of this, in this case, nonprofit. And then what happens is people that click on something for information about, livable wage or information about debt relief, they get put on separate mailing lists.
Right.
And
Yeah.
each of those mailing lists target those people only for that subject matter. And that is that's mail segmentation. That's micro focusing your audience to what you want. So you might have people that are only interested in supplemental, right?
Yeah.
So, and it might be a certain thing. Or you might have people that are interested in catastrophic care I'm sorry, supplementing catastrophic care, something like that.
Sure.
And what you do, your business, the types of marketing material you could put out there in a mails or Google ads and Facebook ads, how to survive, a hospital stay, an emergency hospital stay, if you have catastrophic health care. Because a lot of people don't realize they go to a company, That's all the company offers. They don't realize they can go out and get it on their own.
Right.
So that's something where you can do it. And then you start building up a list. Let's say, so in other words, you say you have about 1,000 people, right? Well, wouldn't you rather have, you know, uh, and I'll even use the same number. Wouldn't you rather have 1,000 people, but of those 1,000 people, they're split off into different categories that are targeted directly at those specific services and products that you offer?
Yes, definitely. I can see a real value there.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a big part. Is your mailing list is essential, and the reason too is that if you think about it this way, if you get to a list of about 10 or 20,000, or even let's dream, let's say you have a list of 100 or more, 100,000, right? Those are people that on your list that are engaged generally, and you have to send stuff out on a regular basis. It's kind of, unfortunately, there's no way around that. It's
Right.
like you can't just set it up and then send something out once a month or once a year, because people get an email and they'll say, "Who's this?" They're going to forget. But when they opt in, if they see a regular stream of email coming from you on a daily or semi-weekly basis, they're not going to forget you. And as long as it's mostly providing value and not just hitting them up with your offers, they're not going to forget you too,
Right.
right? But there's all these opportunities. There's a million holidays, which if you're a social media manager, you go out and look. There's literally a calendar full of holidays that
Yes.
you've probably never even heard of.
Yep.
Cat Day, you
Hmm.
know what I mean? Cat Day, Dog Day, and all the big holidays, plus all the things around the Christmas holidays, Thanksgiving, Black Friday, all those holidays
Hmm.
are things where everyone kind of universally has permission to send something out asking for you to buy something. And the difference is that you're given a big discount. Now, in your case, a discount may not be it, but you might be able to say, you might be able to offer something that distinguishes you from other, healthcare brokers. You
Hmm.
might say, well, look, I'm going to do a one-on-one. I'm going to sit down with you if you're in the area, and if I'm not, I'll do a Zoom.
Right.
We're going to walk through it personally, to do something. I'm just throwing something out there.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But doing something like that and building your mailing list is so important because the and I say this all the time to people, but the money's in the list. And I'll give you an example. This guy Russell Brunson runs ClickFunnels. It's one of the tools I use, and it's a tool that you can use to create landing pages. It also does email. It'll do email campaigns and list segmentation, all that stuff, right? And you can also pair it up with other tools like Mailchimp, and it integrates with all these other tools as well, right? But the point is that at one point in his career, he was literally sitting in a building and all he had left in the building was the electricity and they were going to shut it off. He was going to have to tell all these people he's going to lay them off, that it was not going well. And this is a guy that's a very talented copywriter. And so he started going to his massive email list and just sending stuff out saying that, he's had an idea for new business. Who wants to invest in this? Who wants a piece of this? It's going to be a monthly service. It's basically, it was a precursor, I think, to ClickFunnels, if I have the story right. And I think he had some obscene amount of money in less than 72 hours. Because why? Because he had a massive email list.
Hmm.
So when people like Facebook and Google advertising, they're great. Any advertising that sends you email addresses are great. But if you're doing it without collecting email, as soon as you stop paying that advertising, that audience, that traffic goes away. That's rented traffic. When you have email addresses, which is the goal of the Facebook and Google advertising, when you have someone's email address, that's traffic you own.
Right.
You can turn around and mail them over and over and over again. It doesn't cost you a dime. So that's kind of important. I would say that you definitely want to participate more in the Facebook groups as well because that's free.
Right.
And a lot of times, what I suggest to people is just answer questions. If you're joining Facebook groups that are about health and healthcare, answer questions,
Hmm.
and without really promoting yourself. And eventually, people are going to ask you for help. I did that one day, with two people. I was just sitting there. It was on my phone. I was in line somewhere waiting for something, actually. I might have been waiting for an oil change or something, right? And I did this and I got responses from two people. And one of them became business. He lived in Alabama. And I did set up Zoom sessions and I worked with him. I did some marketing coaching. So that was from 10 minutes of work. So participating in Facebook groups and this podcast, even these interviews, These all came from me just saying to people, hey, if you want me to interview you, there's no obligation to buy anything. It's not a marketing thing. I'm just going to help you and tell you where I think you can improve your business. I got like 40 people respond to that, and I've got 20 plus people scheduled for interviews.
Oh,
So
excellent.
it works. It really works when as long as you don't say, like I see people do this all the time too. Yeah, you need better coverage on your network. Let me help you, show you how to get leads through Wi-Fi and capturing leads like magic. And it's like, yeah, people are just going to ignore that, right?
Right.
So
Yep.
you have to be
Hmm.
careful how you do it. But the other thing is, when I asked you about how you find clients online, everything you said was really outbound, what I call outbound marketing, not inbound. So anything that requires a
Right.
phone call or an in-person meeting or a direct mail is outbound. Anything where people are coming to you, like you do a Facebook or a Google ad, and someone hits you up because they want to grab that lead magnet about your healthcare questions we talked about.
Hmm.
That's inbound marketing. Inbound marketing is 75% more effective than outbound,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
because when people go ahead.
I said that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because when people come to you, they're not like, it's not like getting a phone call and then hanging up on someone. It's like, oh, I don't want to talk to you. It's like saying, hey, here's my number, call me. So they're calling you or they're emailing you. So and that's a common thing too. You can set up marketing funnels where people come in, they get your lead magnet, and on the thank you page you may say, hey, if you're interested, set up a meeting with me for a free one-on-one. Here's my Calendly link,
Hmm.
and if you want to jump to the head of the line, text me at this number or call me. You'll get a certain percentage of people that they'll set up the meeting and they'll call you to do everything. So I look at that stuff. I think that your mailing list is a big thing. Um, you have a lot. I mean, this is an explosive issue right now. So with the right type of copywriting, you can get a lot of leads through a lead magnet, through
Hmm.
from a Facebook or Google ad type of thing. And if you don't like it, or if you're not having, like you mentioned that, um, like you did, I think you did online boosts, right? So
Hmm. I
I don't
did.
consider an online boost to really be advertising, because um, it is advertising, strictly speaking. But advertising is really, if you're going to do a Facebook or a Google ad, you're really trying to target a specific audience in a specific area, and boosting something usually, may or may not work depending on what it is.
Right.
You can go in and define that, but so many people don't realize that. They'll just click boost and they'll do the defaults for everything, right? So you're missing a golden opportunity to say, you know what, my demographic are men from the age of 40 to 65 plus. And if you just boost without paying attention to any of that stuff, you're spending a lot of money on people who are in their 20s that really
Right.
think they're, as we said earlier, invincible.
Hmm.
They're not going to hit you up on any of this stuff. So there are ways to do that stuff to make your return on investment better. And if you don't want to do it or you're not comfortable doing it, there's all sorts of people out there. And I'm not just talking about me. There's people on Fiverr. There's people on, all sorts of services that would help you with that, including yourself, because there's a million videos on YouTube on how to do it more effectively.
Right.
So that's one thing I throw out there. Another thing I throw out there. So other than that, I think that being more in contact with your existing list is important too. So, for instance, people forget about their existing list. Like you have 1,000 people on there. How often do you mail them? Just like a monthly newsletter?
Yeah. Right now, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. See, I actually, because people, I tell people that you know, recommend that people do it, if not every day, multiple times a week. And then people say, "Oh, that's too much." People unsubscribe. And there's two quick things I'll say about that. One is, I did a program that was a 32-day email campaign. So someone signed in and they got an email every day. Um, and I think that my opt-in rate was about 40%, which is really good. And I ended up having, I don't know, I think I had I forget how many people I had. This number changes every time I do an interview, but I think it was like 300 or 400 people at the time, right? That I started it. And it was just starting from scratch, just saying, okay, get a bunch of people, right? I did that for 32 days. And I think total of 10 or less people unsubscribed. The rest of the people were on there because I was providing value. I was sharing videos. I was sharing things that were specific to things they were interested in when they signed up to my list. And so, sending something out once a month isn't enough. And the other example I'll give you is the same guy, Russell Brunson, is a guy I talk about a lot. But he, way back when said that, I always thought that people told you should email frequently. And I said, no, that's just too much, man. But he said, but I'm a numbers guy and I actually did the numbers. And when I send things out, I have millions of people, I make money. So when I sent stuff out to my list and I did it a couple times a week, and then I did it, more than a couple of times. And then finally I was doing it 5 days a week. I realized that I was making more money doing it 5 days a week than I was not. And did I get some unsubscribes? He said, yeah, I did. But the people that were on there that were just kind of sitting there all of a sudden became active and were doing things like sending me money or signing up for meetings or going to my webinars, which in your line of work, I think a webinar would be a great thing as well. But, so we're running a little over. So I just want to ask you, David, what is a great way for people to contact you, by like phone, website, or what do you prefer?
Well, first, really great tips, Paul. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
Uh,
welcome.
People can get me, if they go to verdenbenefits.com, it's one central way to get me, but I don't mind also sharing a phone number. And you'll find it at the website, V as in Victor, IRDEN benefits.com. And the phone number you'll see there is 617-233-9937.
That's excellent. Thanks. Hey, listen, I'm going to ask you to hold on before you hang up when we end this call in the green room, just so we can chat for a bit. But I just want to thank you so much for joining me this week on Express Leads. And it's been a real pleasure talking to you. And, maybe I'll end up with some leads for you even.
It has been a great pleasure, Paul. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
All right. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
This has been Express Leads, hosted by Paul Brady of Brady Consulting and Inbound Marketing. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to leave us a voice message by visiting anchor.fm/expressleads. Thank you.